While Hollywood Media presents a voice of truth and inspiration, resonating a vibration of love and understanding, illuminating new paths for new directions as we, as one, strive for higher and higher planes of existence, always remembering life changes. This is radio like you've never felt before, and now your host, your MC, our master of change, Filippo Vultaggio.
Well, thank you, Mark, for that intro. Wow. I'm thinking that last week I shared with you a story with you all that I was uncomfortable doing the bachelor thing or whatever it was, the auction thing or the stripper thing, whatever you want to call it. And it was funny because I then got asked to do a comedy thing. And I don't fashion myself a comedian, but I was asked to be host of a humor for healing event, and it was held at a comedy club. And after and it was going to include all these actually famous, a couple famous comedians. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. Either the universe has a sense of humor, like back to back, I'm doing this stripper thing, so to speak, and the next week or two or three, I'm doing this comedy thing, and I'm not a stripper, I'm not a comic. And so I was in situations where I had to experience something that I didn't know if I was comfortable experiencing. Well, I knew I wasn't comfortable. I just knew I'm not comfortable. But I didn't say no, and I figured, that's our show. Really, our show is putting ourselves out there and allowing life to change, especially when we put something out saying this is what we want, and we want to be able to affect change in so many different areas. And so here are the areas where I was being asked to affect change. So I had to be me in those situations. And it was interesting, in the heels of a friend of mine who said, Filippo, I'm really surprised at you about the whole stripper type of situation, where she said, you are life changes. Everywhere you go, life changes. So you are in this situation with all these women, and they're looking for to bid on men who are putting themselves out there in a certain way, and that way you're uncomfortable with. But there is a way where you can put yourself out there and watch what happens. Well, obviously it happened. I got up there, and as you know, I didn't dance or anything. I just stood there and I sang. And then the bidding started, and I was surprised it went as high as it did. And I thought, wow, great. Okay. Well, the same thing with the comedy club. Well, actually, before I move forward, so these women came up to me and said, wow, you brought romance, you brought love and all that stuff. Well, in this comedy club, I thought, what am I bringing? Sure, some people say I'm funny, and sometimes I agree. But what am I bringing to this comedy club? And I thought, you know what? Bring yourself, and all of yourself, and find the commonality. Because what our show is about is bridging a gap between the things that I've learned and the things that people don't get to experience on a daily basis. So it's interesting how the person that invited me to do this event said, you have to understand, the people in this audience, in this particular city, at this particular comedy club are going to be very conservative. And so the things that you know and the things that you talk about on your show and all that is going to be really foreign to them. So go easy on them. And that just brought it all home to me, because I thought, that's what our show is about. This is who our show is for. It's for everybody, but even these people. But the irony of it is I used to be one of these people, very much like them, as a matter of fact. And so instantly I figured it out. I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to say, because I was one of them. And in so many ways, I still am. So when they introduced me on stage, I stood up there, and of course, those of you who've seen my picture or know me personally or seen me live know I've got long hair, and I dress fairly casually, and I come across fairly comfortable, casual kind of person, friendly and all that. Well, wasn't always like this. And so I stood on that stage and I said, the very first words out of my mouth were, I have a confession to make. It wasn't long ago that I didn't have long hair. My hair was very short. And I didn't dress like this. I dressed in a suit with a white shirt and a power tie. And I used to work at a 9-to-5 job. And that was my life. And the way I said it, people laughed, and there was some huzza going on, and so I told them that here I was working for IBM, and somebody said, Filippo, you seem like a fish out of water. And this was years after I'd been there, and they said, you should go see a clairvoyant. And I didn't even know what the word meant at the time. And everybody laughed, and they said, oh, is that one of those psychic people or whatever? And this lady says, no, I know this lady who's a clairvoyant, and she'll help you with where you are, or where you should be, or because there's something about you that just doesn't fit here. And everybody agreed that I didn't fit there. But I had for many years. I had done very well, and I'd been moving up within the company, so I wasn't sure how to take that, frankly. But the point of all this is that I went to go see her. And she told me all these odd things that actually I'm doing now, which is kind of interesting. But the funny thing is that when I came back, everybody wanted to know what was going on, like what'd she say and what was it like. And it was interesting that I had to temper it because, frankly, I thought it was a little weird myself. But I had to temper it and find a way to share it with them, what I had experienced and what it felt like and what she said, and then sharing it with my family. I was doing the same thing, and I got hooked, and I started going and going to psychics and astrologers and just figuring out all this stuff. And I'd come back and I'd share it with these people, and my friends who were conservative just like I was. And they'd say, wow, you make it sound interesting, or you make it sound normal, or you make it sound palatable. And I don't know if I realized it then, but now years later, as we're doing this show, bridging that gap between the person I was who didn't know any of this, who didn't believe any of this, who didn't understand, who didn't care, to the person I am now, who has explored all of these different philosophies and ideas and spoken to so many people and learned and read so much and now interviewed so many people and now bringing that to an audience of people that were like me. And most of them, believe it or not, so many of you all and the people that I encounter and the people at this event, the Comedy Club, hungry for this kind of information. So after I said that, it level set. I didn't say it in that detail, but it level set it, saying, I know where you are, and it's okay. And it almost made them feel comfortable that, okay, we can trust this guy, he's one of us, because indeed I am. And yet I'm very comfortable also in the woo-woo world of all this other stuff. And we can be so much more than just one way. And what I like about our show is exactly what happened in that comedy club when I allowed myself to be myself, which ends up being this bridge between what I like to say, woo-woo and you. Bringing some of the stuff that I get to live with on a daily, day in and day out basis. And some of you in the 9-to-5 jobs and in the work that you're doing or the lives that you lead with families and all that don't get to have this. And so being able to go through some of the stuff and saying, oh, this doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to present it, but this does, or this doesn't make sense, but I can present it in this way, is a pleasure for me. And something that I feel, and we all feel here at Life Changes, that is very necessary. And obviously you all do too, because we're getting all kinds of emails and people sharing their stories of the experiences that they've had just from listening to us or coming to our live events. And speaking of our live events, if you haven't seen the video of the testimonials of all the people that have shared what they experienced at our live events, you can see that on our Facebook page. at facebook.com/lifechangeswithfilippo. And you can also see it on YouTube. We're very proud of that. These were people that, unsolicited, we were just doing testimonials, and they came willingly, happily giving these testimonials. So we're very proud of that. And thank you all who were a part of that. So it's interesting that I share that story today because our guest today is doing a similar thing, bridging some new ideas with traditional ideas and helping big business in a way come into this next millennium, this new way of doing things in the new paradigm of doing business. And the beauty of what he's doing now is that he's not only doing it for big business, but has found a way to make it available to small businesses as well. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. It's interesting because our guest also happens to be my older brother. He's Peter Vultaggio and is one of the most sought-after business consultants in the world today. He is the CEO and co-founder of the LUMI Company, LLC, a successful international management and workforce development company. Fortune 100, 500, and smaller entrepreneurial companies seek him out for his amazing ability to provide results in increased productivity, employee engagement, and performance to business strategy. With a client list too long to mention, a few have been included: Microsoft, Pepsico, Chevron, Lockheed Martin, Oracle, Toyota, Starwood Hotels, Merck, Texas Instruments. I could just go on and on. Johnson & Johnson. Actually, I know all of these. Kraft and Charles Schwab and Honeywell. It goes on and on. With 25 years of experience in business and consulting, he has also designed extraordinary workbooks, concepts, and tools as part of the LUMI Company that are currently used as by organizations throughout North America, South America, Europe, and Asia. Peter Vultaggio is also a contributing author in the 2009 Pfeiffer Manual of Management Development and an active member in the World Future Society. I also know that he is a program developer and an author of a book that hopefully will be coming out soon. He will, in this show, help us understand how our businesses can be green, how they can be socially conscious, and he's changing the way businesses, big and small, look at their human resources. I welcome Peter Vultaggio, my brother, to the show.
Thank you, Filippo. Great to be here. Thanks for having me here on this groundbreaking program.
You know, it is groundbreaking for me, that's for sure. I actually wrote on Facebook that when we were children, we used to play radio. And then you went off to become this big, successful CEO and consultant, and I'm still playing radio.
And now, evidently, so am I.
Well, it's good to play with you again. Well, I've been following your career, one can say, since I was born. And what's fascinating to me as I follow it is all the twists and turns that your life has taken you that bring you to the conclusions about business that you are able to come to. And so people that I know of have said, wow, how can your brother do that? And I think it's some of the experiences that you've had that have gotten you there. Now, without getting into too many of the things that happened when we were kids, or actually you can leave out the things that happened with me.
Deal.
How did you come into consulting, first of all?
Well, it may be helpful to know that I actually, by training, am a biomedical engineer, so my mind was developed from an analytical perspective. But I got into the business world very early on in my career. In fact, I got into management very early on and realized that the analytical abilities that I learned in engineering school were not serving me in dealing with people. And not to make it too crudely, but when you're working with a person or any animal, and you have them opened up on a table, and if something's not working according to textbook, you know how to fix it. You know how to replace it or bypass it. When you sew them up and they're walking around, they don't go by textbook. And that was frustrating for those of us that go through a technical type of training. There's one right answer, everything else is wrong. When you're managing people, when you're running a business, which is really a social entity, that's what organizations are, they don't go by textbook. So what I did is I took my analytical abilities from my engineering training and married it with my graduate work and experience in management and human resources, and came up with the approach that I think is going to help raise the level of how organizations operate in the 21st century.
Well, you already know it has helped because you've worked with all these companies, and I know you haven't introduced too many or all of your ideas, and so I don't know what we can or can't talk about, but so how did you end up getting into consulting, though? I mean,
well, because the results were there. So I'm now managing groups of organizations, whether they're work groups or an entire department, and the rest of the organization wants to know, how come you're getting the results that you're getting? And I took it as a lab. I just kept experimenting with new techniques, new approaches, and then figuring out how to be able to put it simply so that I can remember how to do it again next time. And they said, hey, can you do that for everybody else? And that's how I got into the consulting and training, is to say, well, I know how to do it for me. How do I help you do it in your organization? And that was the entry point. I got bit by that bug.
Well, obviously, people have sought you out, and they're bit as well. And how? So all of that makes you different, and it makes your approach different. But in practical terms, can you give us a couple things that really stand out as that's different? Consultants don't usually do that.
Well, there's a lot of areas that we can get into. Just briefly, one of the points that needs to come out is that we cannot manage organizations in the 21st century the way we've been running them in the 20th century. In fact, much of how management is done is actually based off of, and I talk about this in my talks, in the seminars that I run, off of 19th century management concepts. So what we're needing now, since it's a different workforce and it's a different work environment and business environment, is we're needing practices that are able to get more out of the people that make up the organization. So I'm talking about things like how to get work done in a collaborative way, how to get creativity out of people, how to be more forward-thinking, and so on. So this links to engagement, this links to the fulfillment levels, and I can give you lots of specific stories as we have time on those.
Actually, I know that, and I love your stories, actually. And every time we're talking about these kinds of subjects, it makes me think of when I used to be in the corporate world, and how things would have been so much different with your philosophies. And what I'm excited about is to know that this is out there, or you're getting this out there.
That's right.
So one of the ways that you're getting this out there is through software. And this is unique in many ways, actually. See, because right now people hire you, and it's you going with your ideas, and it's just you.
It's an old model. We've got a group of consultants that will actually travel. We ship our tools, our workbooks, all over the world. It's chewing up a lot of resources. Is there a better way of being able to get these technologies out there, these people technologies, without having to put somebody in a classroom, without having to fly somebody someplace physically? And the best solution to that is through software. Not even. It's really a web-based solution. And so now anybody located anywhere in the world that can log into our server will have access to a couple of dozen tools that are specific to how to run an organization, how to lead a group of people, how to set up teams, how to solve problems, and so on, without having to go through any training. And so now we can raise the standards of how we manage organizations without having to go through training or even online learning.
You know, that's the interesting thing to me, and it's mind-boggling, because everything that I've done, again, in the corporate world or even in my small businesses, you have to take a course that teaches you how to do something, and then you have to use it on your people or teach them, and so and so on and so forth. So, but the thing about this, and I haven't gotten to experience the program yet, but what you're saying is that you don't need training. You just open it up, and all of a sudden, you're productive.
That's right.
You're more than productive. You've got answers that you never had at your fingertips before.
Well, and it links to everything the organizations are looking for right now, which is how do I make my leaders feel competent, feel confident, and then if they are, the workforce will have confidence in their leadership because they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, they know how to help take people there, help people take the organization there. And we can do that without actually going through training on some of these fundamentals. There are some things that need to be done in person regarding training, for example, increasing communication skills and so on. There are some aspects that you need to do face-to-face. The rest of this does not have to be done through videotapes, case studies, multi-day learning events. We can get you up and running literally with your own problems and decisions within minutes of actually being online.
I think that's incredible. And one of the things that, of course, we've been on the air for a while, and just because you're my brother, we haven't put you on the show. But when we learned about, as you're putting the marketing tools together and all that, that there are a couple things that really resonated with us. For example, the green. That this is a more green way of doing business and of learning and growing. And that, well, let's just talk about that because there were a couple other things that really triggered. So let's talk about the green.
Well, Filippo, think about this. Whenever training is held, as we have known the training model, you get 20 people, 30 people to come to a class. It's very expensive time. And the work that I do, they're senior level managers in organizations. They're paid very, very well. That is all time away from the job. They're in a classroom, a workshop, a seminar. They are being trained. They're being taught these skills in the hopes that it will transfer back to the workplace. And whatever gets transferred, you hope that they will do it well enough so that the organization actually gets a return on their investment that they have put in on this. They are traveling to these locations. I teach around the world with these global organizations. They will fly their business leaders from other countries to be in one place so they can learn these skills. Now, there is value in having people come together, but for a lot more important things than just having them learn some fundamental management skills. So think about how many people are buying tickets and driving cars and burning up resources, how many books need to be printed that will end up on a shelf someplace that people rarely will actually look at. Again, that's typically the training model. So you're talking billions of dollars spent on training, then all the resources that go around supporting that, and what the research has found is that actually a small fraction of that, I've seen some studies that have shown less than 10%, actually ever gets back to the workplace to improve the lives of the employees and of the organizations. Why did we burn up all those resources?
Well, I'm thinking back how we would get binders and binders and binders, and you go through this, and you're tired because you're in a different time zone and you're falling asleep during class, and so you're not retaining, you're not taking it in, and then you don't retain it, and then you have to leave early because your flight leaves at this time or what have you, and then you ship all these binders with you to work, and then you get to work and you jump into work, and those binders end up, the box is not being opened or something. So how effective was all of this anyway?
That's right. And organizations are missing out on being all that they can be. They're not tapping into the potential that already resides within everybody because they haven't unleashed the capabilities, the talents that already are within their organization because they don't have access to these skills. Only a handful can get to go to training and so on and so on. Now we are giving the ability not only to the large organizations in being able to unleash these capabilities, but also the small organizations, wherever they're located in the world, because that's been a common request. How do I get access to what you do? I can't afford to have somebody take a day off of work or to pay for the expensive consultants to come in and do training for us. How can we get that? Now they can.
Well, so now the small companies are getting the benefit of what the larger companies get, and even better than what the larger companies have been doing. And getting back to the green thing, it's just not acceptable anymore. Nowadays, I think of, do I need to print one piece of paper? Mm-hmm. But to think and how many, again, binders and books are printed, and a lot of this is for people to just feel like they're actually doing something. But it's interesting how corporations are interested in the bottom line, and yet they don't take this into consideration. Or are they now?
They're beginning to now.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, that's a positive that's coming out of this economic downturn, is that they're starting to look at different answers, and this is one of the areas that they're looking at.
Well, great. That's great for the environment then, and that's one of the reasons why we thought, okay, we have to talk about this on the air. The other one was morale. You seem to talk about morale, like this software actually helps people with their morale, and I didn't understand that at first, but you were explaining to me how it engages everybody and they feel like they're a part of this.
Well, for example, if you're making a decision, typically we look at managers that go into a room and come up with an answer. And we're saying now is tap into all that ability that employees that are closest to the work have, and be able to come up with an answer that not only gives them a better solution, but because of everybody's involvement, you have a higher level of commitment to following through with the solution. And what we have learned from brain science is the employee's involvement in thinking through a problem or a decision along with the leaders actually activate the parts of the brain. They're the same places that get activated when you get a monetary compensation. So here we're talking about, gee, we don't have the money to be able to pay bonuses or give them extra wages. How do we reward these people? We're not talking about mugs or T-shirts here. We're talking about helping the employee feel more fulfilled, more engaged, and intrinsically rewarded with the work that they're doing.
So they're feeling like they're worthwhile. Like somebody gives a shit.
They matter, they're important, they have something to say, somebody's finally listening to them, they have options, they are helping the organization be better. They go home more fulfilled. So now we're taking the career and making it more of a vocation. How do the managers feel in this? Are managers saying, hey, I like getting the people involved, or are they saying, no, I like feeling like I'm in control and I don't want their involvement? Or is it making their life easier? Well, it's all the above. What happens, though, with our work, now, we get to do it through executive coaching, so we're able to work one-on-one with them. Now, thanks to technology that's available through this Business Vitalizer program, managers that want to manage that way but have not known how. How do I take care of the bottom line? At the end of the day, I've got to meet the numbers, and I can't have chaos on my hands if I've got everybody trying to make a decision. I need to be the one to make the call, is because they don't know how to go about doing it. So you can actually go through a decision-making process collaboratively. May not mean that everybody gets their first choice, but it's a choice that we all came up with together. If people understand what the parameters are, they'll be able to come up with oftentimes an even better decision than just one person would come up with on their own, in this case the manager.
So also then they could say, well, instead of I was told to do this, they've all reached the conclusion that I have to do this because there's really no other way. Or if they find another way, good. But if they don't, then they agree with the decision that's been made.
That's right. And so it takes a different style, a different type of manager now. The manager of the past actually looks a whole lot easier than what we're needing today for managing. What we're finding in the organizations that are front line, not the ones that are the old needing the bailout types where you're just having somebody fix something for you by giving you more money. We're talking about the ones that say, hey, we need to run our business differently. We need to transform, not just be bailed out. We need to be able to do business differently. Those are the ones that are saying, we need to manage differently. The old manager hired, fired, told people what to do, rated, ranked them. Now we're needing somebody who knows how to work with all of the talents that are within that organization and get the best out of them in alignment with what the needs of the organization are. I have a higher level of expectation of managers today than we did when we were running them like we needed them in the 19th century, where we were just managing a pair of hands.
As in just factory workers kind of thing.
That's right. It was that, and we called it labor. It was physical labor. Now, with the knowledge worker, and we've actually gone past the knowledge worker, that's part of what I'm also writing in the book, is to say we're actually past the era of the knowledge worker. We need managers that know how to manage not just the hands, but their heads and their hearts. And that takes a different skill than just managing somebody's physical labor.
You know, of course, Peter, here you're talking about your particular software, but what you're also giving people that are listening is an indication of what's ahead in general as far as business is concerned. In your case, you have condensed it here in software, but out there, everybody that's listening can see that this is where it's headed. Software or no software, we have to be looking at at the labor force, quote unquote, in a different way. We have to be treating each other in a different way, et cetera, et cetera.
There are still companies that think that they will eventually get to being able to do a Six Sigma or getting to lean manufacturing or getting to... That is 80s and 90s. And some companies are seeing that as the future. It has gone so far past that. In fact, I just gave a talk 2 weeks ago to... These are senior managers. They are black belts in Six Sigma. For folks that don't know what that is, it is a combination of quality, statistical process control, and quality tools, and re-engineering, and a means of being able to do more with less. And I told them that all of these weeks of training that you've had is price of admission. I expect you to have that. This is not going to make you great. This is just your entry. What's going to differentiate you is your ability to get people to not do these things because of compliance, but to get them to do it because of their commitment to it. So if all you know how to do is approach people by, here's what's right, here's what's wrong, here's what we need, here's where you did it, here's where you didn't, and we start rating and ranking you, I don't need that. In fact, there's computer software that can do that. I need somebody who knows how to tap into and influence and persuade and motivate and move people to want to be able to do these things.
And, you know, yet another reason why we wanted you on the show is because of what you're saying right there. And not only are you talking about them wanting to be motivated to do this, but you talk about the employee as a whole person. Mm-hmm. And I love it when you get into that conversation. Could you... Without really revealing too much of what's in the book and all that.
Sure.
Can you...
In fact, I can give you an example. I'm back east with one of the pharmaceutical companies, one of the very large pharmaceutical organization, and I was doing a program about this, instead of career, looking at things as vocation. And I had one of the medical directors come to me twice at two different breaks saying we needed to talk personally. Well, I'm running an entire session here. I've got senior leaders in the group. I can't take time away to work with one individual. But she says, no, listen, I was in the hospital last night, and I just realized from listening to you what my problem is. I said, fine, let's sit down at lunch and let's talk. And what she came to realize is that she is completely out of alignment. She says, nobody has been able to do this for me. My husband says, your job is killing you. And she says, I just realized how come. There's no alignment with my interests, with my skills, with my values. And if I had a manager working with the types of tools, the instruments, the techniques, the approaches that you're talking about, they would have been able to help me align so I can be of better value to the organization and not be killing myself. She said, the doctors can't find what's wrong with me. I'm in the medical profession. I have no idea what's wrong with me. but I literally thought I was going to die. And she said, my insides are just, my intestines are in knots. And I said, well, basically your body's trying to give you a message here to say you're out of whack. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think your listeners would be able to align with this message that says that there's a path that you can find and be of maximum contribution to yourself, to your organization, and to the people that your organization serves. But it takes the right environment, and the leaders of a business create that environment. And it takes a strong enough field that the leadership of the organization creates that people in that group will align with and say, I am all for what we stand for. If I can share one more quick story.
Yes, please. They're fascinating.
I just ran across one of the, I was reading about Volvo. I'm very fascinated with organizations that are doing spectacular things. This is a company I've looked at oftentimes, and it just came right out as I saw what their head of their safety group said. They're hoping, and I don't have my notes here in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he said that by, I believe it was 2015, 2020, that there will be nobody killed inside of Volvo. Not only that, then somebody else in that group added, later in the interview, and buy a Volvo. Now, that is a function of an entire organization that puts a car together, but their function, their purpose, and everybody in that department knows why we exist. We are here to make sure that nobody will ever again die in a Volvo. That's a purpose. And that you can get alignment around. So now whether you're dealing with budgeting, whether you're dealing with materials, whether you do whatever your aspects are, the ultimate purpose of what you're doing and why you're here is to make sure that nobody dies in a Volvo. Now that is in alignment with what the entire organization is going to do. Every department has its own purpose that's in alignment with what the purpose of the whole organization is. That's real power.
I'm glad you shared those two examples. And the example before the Volvo one made me think of the other reason that we wanted to make sure we had you on the show is because, you know, nobody's the bad guy here. At least we're not making them out to be the bad guys. So we're talking about the labor force and keeping the labor force happy and all that. But management and people in upper management, some of these people are some of our friends, and we know that they're just as confused at their level in a whole different paradigm than the people that are in the labor force. So also my friends, and also confused at their level. So what I liked about this is that you were saying how the software not only engages the people that are in the labor force, but managers, one of their biggest stresses, and we know this, are having to make decisions, because sometimes they get promoted for various reasons, but they don't know how to make these particular decisions, or don't know how to delegate, or don't know, and that you work with people, and this software that we haven't named it actually, the Vitalizer,
Business Vitalizer.
You mentioned it earlier, but how it reduces stress.
That's right. Yeah, it's also part of the wellness movement. You brought up delegation. That is one of the best tools of being able to actually reduce the stress levels of the business leaders. Now, there's a fine line between delegating and dumping. What a lot of managers think they're doing when they're delegating is they're actually dumping on people. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to do more work and not more pay, and I don't get what this is. When instead, delegation is a powerful means, if it's done well, of being able to grow your organization, grow and develop your people, and be able to take functions off the plate of the manager to help them take on bigger issues, more foresight and strategic type capabilities, while your organization takes on what used to be on your plate, if it's done right. So by being done right, let's say that this medical director example I gave earlier, let's say she had a manager.
The one who was in the hospital?
That's right.
Meeting you? Okay.
That's right. If she had a manager that understood her well enough to be able to give her tasks, projects that lined up with the need of the business and at the same time where her insides were wanting to take her, opening up her creativity and her talents in alignment with what the business needed, and delegated those tasks to her. She would be more than happy to take those on. She would feel more fulfilled. The morale of her morale, the morale of the group, because everybody else is going to be doing the same types of things in alignment with what their interests are. And so what happens is you very, very quickly, and I've got lots of examples of having done this, turn around the energy level within that part of the organization. If you have the entire company that does it, you will not recognize that organization within a matter of weeks, if not less.
Wow. And so not only delegation, but helping them deal with change, which we like here at Life Changes, of course.
Decision-making.
Define processes, problem solving.
Yeah. Those are all tools that are in the Business Vitalizer, and that are the most powerful way to reduce stress for people in leadership positions. And the organization gets to benefit because now they've got better alignment. They're working on things that interest them, and good times keep going.
You know, Peter, we're so grateful that you came on the show with us today. You know, you don't even have the product to sell yet, and yet you still came on with us to talk about this. And the reason, again, it was important for us is because we haven't had anybody that really talked about business yet and what we need to look at in the future. And I knew through the work that you're doing is that we would get some insights on how we need to start addressing the future of our businesses, because addressing our lives is one thing, addressing our families is another, and our friendship and all that. But unless we address the businesses, which are huge in our society, there won't be a balance.
That's right. And if any of your listeners are interested in when we actually are able to release this to individual users, right now we're working with licensing agreements with large organizations. The website, may I give out?
Of course, please do. Actually, I was going to go there in a minute, but go ahead.
It's www.thebusinessvitalizer.com. And Vitalizer is VITALIZER.com. And feel free to email us of your interest. We will be releasing it. We're actually looking within the next few weeks of being able to be purchased by an individual user. So even an entrepreneur or a small company will be able to have access to these tools that have been field tested for the last 5 years and that are built off of 25 years of experience in what are the best means of being able to do the things that we've just been talking about.
I like it. And actually, are you still willing to give that offer on the air that you talked about with me?
Oh, absolutely. If people are looking at changing, and this is a way of helping change how we do business, upgrading our skill level, our whole purpose is to get it out there, to give people access to this. So if your listeners are interested, please email me directly. Put my name on it as you on where you contact us on the website, and mention that you were on Life Changes with Filippo. We're actually going to, for our first release to the individual user, we're going to actually be discounting it at 50%.
Wow. Actually, I didn't know about that. I was asking about the beta testing thing.
No, we're actually, when we sell it, anybody that came to us through your program, this is part of making that change in the world. These are folks that work inside organizations. They ought to have access to this, and if they're listening to all the other great programs you've been doing here, they're the force that we need behind this.
And that's within a certain period of time, actually. So what time is that? Is that between now and the end of the year? Because this is going to go on, and people are going to be listening to it in podcasts forever. So we have what's the time limit?
Well, our first release will be for fourth quarter, so it would be to the end of the year.
Okay, so till the end of the year. So till the end of 2009. Wow, what an offer! Actually, what you mentioned to me on the phone was about the beta test thing, and I thought that was such a great offer, and instead now here it is. So there it is. Excellent. I'm honored, and I'm excited for everybody, because what I'm really excited about is anybody that's going to be listening to this program is somebody who is in this movement of knowing that we need to change. So if they get onto this software and on the program, so to speak, they can affect change all over the place.
And with the book, they'll also learn more about where companies are headed. We get into robotics, artificial intelligence, and so how to best position themselves into a career that will actually be there.
Now, this is the book that's coming out next year you're talking about?
That's right.
Okay.
Being able to actually position themselves so that their company is going to continue to grow and expand instead of being one of the ones that's not going to make it because of where technology is headed today.
Well, we've been talking to Peter Vultaggio, CEO and co-founder of the LUMI company, and also a sought-after business consultant, and now you know why, for those of you who have been listening to us. It's actually been a pleasure having you and on the show and sharing all this information, and it's certainly exciting for me as my brother to hear you say these things that are groundbreaking and earth-changing and life-changing and business-changing, that you're the one that's out there making a difference and being the change you would like to see in business. So we appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It's been a great experience, actually, for me.
Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the show that we used to play radio, and here we are now doing it for lots and lots of listeners all over the world. How does it feel? How was it different?
Not a whole lot.
Because we thought we were doing it for lots and lots of listeners back then,
That's
too.
right, yeah. In fact, it still might be. Some of those tapes may still be around floating somewhere. I've been doing this work inside large organizations. This is actually liberating to start making introductions and giving access to a larger audience. So this has been wonderful to get to share it with people that I don't get to see in the work that my company does. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
Well, my pleasure. Our guest has been Peter Vultaggio, and the website again is the Business Vitalizer, Vitalizer being spelled VITALIZER.com. And we look forward to hearing more about you, your consulting, your book, and your software. And I'm really excited about the book as well, so can't wait to have you back on and talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you join us again soon. Well, that was my brother. And wow, that was a first for me, talking about life changes, huh? And it just gets better and better. And so, to that, we now have Dorothy Lee with the State of the Universe address. And can't wait to hear what you have to say. How about my brother?
Oh, he's great. The whole family is great.
Thank you. So share with us the State of the Universe address, Dorothy.
Okay. It seems like just yesterday that we began the new year celebrating the arrival of the incredible vibration that 2009 brings to us. In other words, 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 9 equals 11. And 11 is a master number of the highest spiritual vibration. And now, here we are, at the end of the first week in September. We have only a few short months left of 2009, which is truly the year for each of us to embrace our magnificence. Since each of us are complete, holy, whole, abundant children of God, this is the year for us to reclaim our divinity and go inside for the answers we seek. Anytime a master number is prominent, energies are magnified, and 2009 promised to be momentous, not just for each of us personally, but for everyone in the world. This Master 11 vibration, which has not occurred since 1901 and 1910, has been supporting you and will continue to support you in becoming the change you wish to see in the world. Excuse me. Everyone on earth is at a point in their evolution where they've had to choose the path they wish to take. For some, this has been an easy choice, one that they were prepared for, and these beautiful beings know what they have come here to do and are doing it. For others, more healing work is necessary, and they will be experiencing the results of their life choices in ways that may seem more challenging or difficult than ever before. There are so many beautiful souls who are going through what many of us have gone through for the past 10 or more years, but in a condensed way, because the old vibrations are being moved out to make way for the higher vibrations. I am amazed at the thousands upon thousands of beautiful human beings who are still looking outside of themselves for the answers they seek. Having done this myself for way too many years, I do understand that this is what we have been programmed to do. However, the time has now come for each of us to realize and accept that all of the answers are within our hearts. We are the gurus we've been waiting for. We are the power in our world. When the man known to the world as Jesus walked on earth, he told us that we are all divine children of God. He also said that anything he could do, we could do, and more. This amazing avatar came to earth to abolish war and religion, so it is quite ironic that religions have been formed based somewhat on his teachings. When I share with my clients how powerful we truly are, they often question how this can be. We are not the Christ. The answer is simple. Yes, you are. You are divine children of God. Within each of us lies the God consciousness that the Christ, the Buddha, the other ascended masters brought to earth. As divine children of God, we are powerful beyond human imagination. We are the co-creators of life on earth, and the time has come for us to embrace our magnificence and to become all we have come here to be. There is a planetary shift happening right now, and each of you listening tonight are a part of that shift. The shift has been prophesied since the beginning of mankind. Indigenous tribes have written about it. Nostradamus prophesied it. The Bible speaks of it. The Mayans tell of it, and their calendar tells us that the fifth world finished in 1987. The sixth world starts in 2012. So we are currently between worlds. This time is called the apocalypse, or revealing. This means the real truth will be revealed, and it is being revealed. The Internet has become the great equalizer, and we have the opportunity to discern for ourselves what is really going on in this world. This is the time for humanity to work through our stuff individually and collectively. This is the time for us to choose love over fear. If you should choose to Google 2012, you'll find over 1,760 search results, and many of them are fear-based articles proclaiming that the end of the world is here. In a way, this is true. I believe that the end of the world as we know it is here. So use discernment when researching the end of times. What I believe and know is true is this. The Mayan sixth world is actually blank. This means it's up to us as co-creators to start creating the new world and civilization we want now. Instead of looking outside of ourselves for the answers as to how we can become the change we wish to see in the world, let us go within. Let us take our power back from the governments and the religions we have given it to. Let us become conscious co-creators and begin co-creating from our hearts and from unconditional love instead of co-creating from our heads and from fear. Let us not look outside of ourselves or to those who proclaim themselves to be masters. Let us not look to the east nor to the west for spiritual guidance. Let us instead go within, and I promise you that the answers you desire are there. There is no diet, no book, no guru, no hugging saint out there that can provide you with what you are seeking. The love you are waiting for lies within your hearts. So please go within. Enter the silence each day. Give it your fullest attention and devotion. Be willing to come away from the conscious physical thought for just a brief time. Turn within and seek reconnection with Source with all of your mind, heart, and desire. And each day you shall bring forth more and more of your true inner being, healed, whole, and joyously alive. Know exactly who you are and why you are here. Until next week, please choose to love yourself enough to make very conscious and elegant choices. And please know that you are loved, you are lovable, and you are loved.
Thank you, Dorothy, with that State of the Universe address. That's one of the things that I've always liked about you is you keep telling us and everybody to always go within and to not even, people sometimes want to follow you. Well, following you and listening to what you have to say is one thing, but you say, what do you say? I don't take
When people ask to be my devotees, I just laugh. We only need to devote ourselves to God and to the God within each of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I honor that and thank you for sharing that. And I, especially nowadays that people are so confused and looking for help, you are recommending they look for help within. And so that's another thing that helps our show stand out, is that we are looking for people that can stand as human beings and stand where they are and say, this is who I am right here, right now. And it takes everyone. This isn't one person out there that's going to save the world or change it. It's every single one of us. And much like our guest, Peter Vultaggio today, helping everybody be empowered. And that's what our show is all about. So speaking of Peter, we'd like to thank him for having been on our show today and invite you to learn more about him by going to our show archives and at our website. And you can click on his links and learn more about him. And you can also listen to the show again there, or you could refer a friend and have them listen to it. Also, on our next show, we will have Dr. Stephen West, who is one of America's most influential health experts. Now, this will be interesting. Tune in because he's going to help us experience a quantum leap and a life-changing healing, as well as how we can experience radiant health. So I'm looking forward to that next week. And, of course, always being with you. Remember, you can keep the conversation going during the week by visiting us at our website, lifechangeswithfilippo.com, and connect with us on our Facebook page, Life Changes with Filippo. Today's show has been made possible in part by our sponsors, Ion Waves, Change Your Water, Change Your Life, and Love and Miracles. To learn more about them, visit our sponsor page and click on their links as well. I am Filippo Vultaggio, and it has been my pleasure being of service by hosting Life Changes with Filippo today. I, along with our segment hosts, Dorothy Lee, and producers Mark Lejeune, Mark Skelton, and Dorothy Lee, and our engineer who was Don today, thank you for joining us and being a part of the show and being part of the change we all wish to see in the world. Ciao, everyone.
You have been listening to Life Changes with host Filippo Vultaggio, our master of change. Join us here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and visit us on the web at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo. And follow our community on Facebook at Life Changes with Filippo. Join us here next week as we consciously embrace and explore the only constant, life changes.
Can do it. The time is now. Let's get